and it's just not cheap. Copper actually changes its price for the wiring on a monthly basis, and it never goes down. It always goes up. And it's hard to, if you follow through on the lesson on this page right here, we could sit here and go back and forth on who's actually to blame for the cost on this thing. Is it the legislators? Are they not taking education seriously? Are they seeing that it's not worth the money? It could be. We could be looking at our administrators because they are not making the hard choices sometimes, and that would at least allow the tuition to remain static if they would cut here or cut there. And I'm sure some of us, whether it's through faculty senates or teachers unions or anything like that, we've probably expressed our opinion on how our administrators are doing from time to time. Could also be an in-house thing with just the faculty members themselves. Maybe some faculty members are just too scared to take that step. You start mentioning OERs and research and things like that, and they hesitate against it. Some people just struggle with change. So we can point the fingers around, but what I've learned in my years is that when you're pointing fingers, you're not really solving the problem. And I decided I wanted to be part of the solution. I didn't want to be part of the problem. And so as I began looking at how to cut the students' cost, and I learned about open education resources, I realized that was the route that I wanted to take the program I was teaching, the electrical technology program. Yeah, Natalie, can you scroll it down just a little bit? Like I was saying, my initial concern really was how much my students were having to pay. The tuition was going up, we were adding fees, and then on top of it, they needed to buy the tools required for the program. We also had, like I said, we had to get the supplies and things like that. So if throwing the textbook cost on there, whether there was any chance of eliminating that, was something I wanted to explore fully. And as I jumped into that process, I got more benefits that I actually thought I was going to get out of that. Not just for me personally, that's actually the least important, is the impact on my students and things I wasn't even anticipating. I was just trying to save a buck and ended up taking the program somewhere that I never could have dreamed was possible. And that's what the rest of this lesson in this presentation is going to do. It's going to explore this a little bit further. Before I get started on the next page, are there any questions?
Lane, no questions have come in thus far. And remember, everyone, if you do have questions, go ahead and type those in the Q&A box. I'll go ahead and advance to the next page, Lane.
Okay. All right. We're just going to take the bull by the horns on this. The first thing that obviously was impacted was the cost for the students. It's maybe a little bit of a staggering number, but I use, or at least touch, 21 different textbooks in the 1 year that my students stay with me. We do a cohort model for our career technical education here at SLCC. So my students come in on a fall semester and they stay through a spring, and we finish up in the summer semester. It's not quite a full 12 months, but it's very close. So in there are 21 different texts that I use. That would have included an actual textbook from any number of publishers. We obviously spend a lot of time in the National Electrical Code because we can learn those hands-on skills, but if we do not install the circuitry legally, then we're not really being very effective at our job. So there's a lot of time spent in that book. There are other resources that I've found that are better for specific types of circuits. A lot of the program is really centered on some curriculum from the National Center of Construction of Education and Research. That's NCCR, for anybody that's familiar with that. But they do not cover everything that I cover in the program adequately. A good example for that would be solar panel systems, residential backup generators, things like that. So I pull in information from other sources. Went and did some shopping because I have not used textbooks in almost 4 years since I've started using SoftChalk. I'm sorry, let me rephrase that. I've not required my students to purchase textbooks in almost 4 years. So I had to go do a little research and see how the price had changed. When I entered that, you can see the price in bold print right there. If I were to require my students to purchase every single book that we use in any way, shape, or form, it's $1,651. I got that number. I went to Amazon for most of those books. Amazon did not have them all covered, so I ended up going to the publisher directly for that. Most of those books were in hardcover. A few had some available in paperback. Yes, I'm going to butcher your name, Miss Athlea. That is for the whole degree. That would be $1,651 for all 3 semesters total. And like I say, they're already paying fees per course inside the cohort. They are having to pay an increased tuition fee. The tuition has gone up. Don't quote me on this. I think our tuition has gone up at least 75% in the last 5 years. That's not a hard number. Like I said, I did not put a lot of data in this because this is more personal experience. But either way, that tuition has been steadily increasing. This year was the first year in 3 years that we did not have to increase tuition. We actually were able to keep it at the same price as last year. But they do have to purchase their tools, which those can also be quite expensive. We sell a kit through our bookstore. The kit costs roughly $650 on that. But that's a really good set of tools. Those are tools that come with a lifetime warranty and so forth and so on. And I'm more interested in them having those kind of things in hand because those tools can go with them once they leave the classroom and actually start working as electricians and will last them for a while, as opposed to spending this much money on books or even that same amount on tools. Even if it's only $600 on books, these are books they will not use again more than likely once they leave the classroom. That includes the National Electrical Code. Even though that is more or less the Bible for wiring buildings in America, it is not something that is kept in the electrician's work truck on a daily basis. There's other little handheld books that they keep with them. The NEC is primarily referenced in you're going to go take your license exam or something along those lines, or another continuing education course or something. So like I said, I was more interested if they were going to spend any extra money, I'd rather be on their hand tools than on these textbooks. Yeah, Natalie, can you scroll down just a little bit? Yeah, that'll do. Thank you. And that number is a worst case scenario, by the way. I would never dream of asking a student to purchase a textbook that I may be only referencing one chapter out of or something like that. That was just an overall price. The last time we purchased textbooks, they only had to purchase 4 of them, and the cost was right around $700. But that would have gotten them through the whole cohort, the whole year. So once we got past the cost of this thing and we started using the lessons instead of, we were using SoftChalk primarily as our tool to deliver the reading content. At that point, I started finding it added a little bit of flexibility to what we were doing in the program. I felt, I don't know if everybody experiences this, but going through a textbook or a series of textbooks that were designed to be together, I found that to be extremely binding. So when a topic would come up that didn't necessarily fit in that series of textbook, it actually kind of threw the groove off a little bit in the learning process in the classroom. So we'd be studying and getting used to the language in one textbook, and I would need to bring in something else, say solar panels, for example. I'd have to tie in the solar panels or the batteries that go with those systems or something like that, which wasn't covered in the NCCR content that we were using. And because of changes in language and style, review question types would change, the methods and all that. We just felt really, it was too structured that way. And it would throw us off by changing with using something like SoftChalk, I was able to go in and customize all that content. So this way, it was the same pace. So even if I was switching from how we create power at a actual electrical station or substation and comparing that to how the electricity is generated in the solar panel, because it was my language, the flow stayed the same. I noticed the students were kind of grabbing onto that a little bit better. They were enjoying the pace from some of the initial feedback I've gotten on that. Looking ahead, the National Electrical Code also updates every 3 years, and that comes into play on the flexibility as well. The next thing that I was starting to notice on that was I was able to really start streamlining the program. In the textbooks, I was able to pick and choose the content I wanted to cover. If there were things that weren't covered in any of the textbooks, but I knew it was going to be something they faced out in the field, I can give you a really good example of that. If you are going to install wiring in a building that's already built, you've got to go drop that in a wall, which involves cutting a hole in the top of the wall inside of the attic space, dropping the wire down it, cutting a hole in the wall where you need to pull it through, and then you have to send a special tool up there to try and grab the wire and pull it out. We call that wall fishing. You cannot find that in an electrical textbook anywhere. They do not cover that technique. I do not know why, but it is an extremely important skill for an electrician to have, especially if you're working on any building that is already complete and you have to add something to it electrically. Able to insert that in, provide videos for them to watch it, in addition to me demonstrating the technique for them. Everything just started getting condensed, the streamlining, the flexibility. It was we had really good results from that with the students. Which kind of ties in. I found these 3 topics were really kind of hard to split up. They almost all seem to integrate into each other easily. This also makes using an OER makes it easy to update. So like I mentioned a few minutes ago, when the National Electrical Code updates every 3 years, if there's something significant that the students need to know once they're going to go out in the field, it's extremely easy to plug that in because I don't have to wait for a textbook to update. The other problem with that is sometimes that update comes out in the middle of a cohort. So take, for instance, we're on the 2017 edition of the code right now. There's going to be a 2020 edition coming out soon. That edition is probably going to come out in January or February of 2020. I've got a cohort that's halfway through at that point, but they started in the 2017 edition. It's too hard to switch everything to match the new edition. New textbooks come out with it to meet it and things like that. I don't deal with that anymore with OERs. If something comes out and it needs to be illustrated out of the National Electrical Code, I literally can just take it, plug it into what we've got going. You can make a notation. Hey, this is a change that's occurring. It's being done this way. By the time you get in the field, this is where it's going to switch over to. The long and short of it, when it's all said and done, I noticed I have a cap of 20 students. So I take up to 20 students every cohort. Every year, more and more of those 20 are surviving to the second semester. I always lose a few, just, there's attrition in any program, at any higher ed institution, sorry. And they're staying. The grades are improving. They are learning more. We are expanding more in the program. And last year we had 17 to start with, and I had 14 make it to the second semester of the cohort, and they were remembering the things from the previous semester, which was outstanding because normally I feel like I'm constantly having to reteach, but we're going to get a little bit more into that. But yeah, the last paragraph under improves student retention. I saw an increase in students who were able to find the common technical aspects of differing devices. This was significant because as we moved from electrical devices found in buildings and into the motor control circuits, They displayed an understanding of the new equipment earlier in the instruction than had previous groups of my students. I think it's because it was streamlined, it was flexible, they were able to retain the information better. And they were making connections because, you know, we spent a lot of time in electrical theory at the beginning. You know, why is the electricity doing what it's doing? What types of circuits are out there? What's the difference between them? How do they behave, so forth and so on, things like that. It was sticking with them better. So if they did make a mistake with an installation, they were able to find their mistakes faster than previous groups. And each year this number gets better and better. Each group is improving at a faster rate than the others. And it's the longer we're just sticking with that streamlined, flexible content and not being bound to these textbooks with their long chapters, heavy word usage, so forth and so on. There. Before we go off this page, I did share a couple of articles on this one as well that I found. They're saying almost everything that I've said on this page and that I've been talking about today, but I think that's a good thing because it's showing that this is not something that's unique in my program. This is something that other people around the country are experiencing, and there's data coming in to support it and things like that. Are there any questions about any of the content on this page?
No additional questions have come in at this time, Lane. Amy did share an additional link to you and I for other research on using OERs.
Oh, excellent. Thank you. Well, in that case, I guess we can move on to the next page.
All right.
As you can see, there's a slightly silly picture of me with my students right there. This is a group from 2 years ago. I do a lot of promoting for my program on social media. This was a picture I used. I thought it was good for what we're talking about here. What you're seeing is that they're actually engaged in an assignment. And they're having to research questions out of the National Electrical Code, and they are using the code to answer review questions for one of their lessons in preparation for an exam. And there are no textbooks on any of those desks. And as you can see from just a few students in that picture, they are all engaged. So it has not created too many problems in the classroom with it being completely online like that. Most of them are picking it up at a very, very good pace if they're just not already tech savvy and running circles around me. Now on this page, we're going to talk about how the program has started to change its shape due to getting away from traditional textbooks. This very first one, I couldn't wait to write about this one. It's an exciting time for me right now in the program. The program is really starting to take more of a holistic approach to this. So I'm able to use examples. And what I like about the OERs, especially using SoftChalk to make this happen, because it makes it so easy for me to put it in. If we're discussing something like electrical theory, I know what's coming further down the line in the cohort. So I could start with a simple circuit, maybe like a lighting circuit in a bedroom or something like that, explain everything that's happening in there, and then I could take a motor control circuit that is extremely similar to that and bring it in. So I'm starting to lay a foundation early on for the more advanced things they're gonna see and have to work on later on in the cohort. I'm able to compare and contrast. Another good example of the holistic here. I'm able to compare and contrast. We're going to build a lighting circuit, and this is how it's going to be done if you're in a house, but this is how it's going to be done if you're in a commercial setting like a schoolhouse, movie theater, shopping center, or things like that. With the flexibility from the OERs, I'm able to bring these things in and can illustrate them easily, and it stays right there in front of the students. The students can go back and look at those graphics and those examples all they want. I don't have to jump them back and forth between different textbooks, which is a common thing in electrical, welding, air conditioning programs, things like that. They deal with something in one chapter, then they'll move on to another chapter, or they may move on to another edition entirely, or a second volume, and things like that. So things that should be tied together are not always tied together in a textbook, or they will fail to reference something that was previous in the textbook. I don't like that style. I don't like the fact that they do that. So with the OER content, I'm able to put those things together, and the benefits have, I just cannot tell you how proud I am of my students and how well they are adapting to this thing and how much better the training is that's going on in the classroom. We can scroll down a little bit, Natalie. Then right on the heels of this holistic training, we're not spending as much time having to clarify the language in those books. So, I mean, I'm still doing lecture. I'm never going to get away from lecture. Some of the stuff just needs to be explained. We have to go over circuits and diagrams on the board and things like that. So it's not going away, but, you know, at first they were reading chapters that were 70 to 150 pages long, and they were just drone on and on and on. So when they got to the classroom, and I was trying to get feedback from them during the lecture times, during the class activity times, you could tell they weren't getting everything they needed to out of the text, which resulted in me having to spend more time in the classroom portion of things, standing behind the podium, redrawing the circuits over and over again. Now that we've got this condensed content and I'm able to just give them, all right, here's what you need to know about this, we ended up with more time on our hands. Well, I'm a career technical program. The best way to learn to be an electrician is to put the tools in your hand, start messing with the wire, start hooking up the devices, so forth and so on. So with that extra time, I was able, first year I noticed that we were ahead of schedule, seriously ahead of schedule, I might add. We were probably running about 3 weeks ahead of schedule during the second semester once we implemented the OERs. I was able to give them more practice time. So I didn't increase any circuits or any amount of graded activities that first year. But looking at the time, I was like, okay, y'all take a couple of days. Let's come up with some different ways to build this particular circuit. It's the same circuit, but put it in a different box so that you can see what it's like when you have to run more wire, so forth and so on. That immediately led to the next section on this page. From there, I started designing more circuits. I started bringing in more circuit types for them to work on, and that was all as a result of they were picking up the information faster. They were showing comprehension faster in the classroom. Once I was convinced that they were ready to move on, we were bringing in the new circuits. One of the things that really came about on that was several of my graduates had called me back, and this was before we went into the OER version of the program. Some of my students had called me back, and they were like, Mr. Lane, you know, we appreciate what you taught us, but we got out here and we're working on these motors, and we're using a particular type of equipment called a variable frequency drive, but we didn't go over that in the program. Well, I didn't have any curriculum for variable frequency drives, but thanks to the OERs, I was able to bring that in because none of my textbooks were covering it. I brought it in, and we were bringing that, and then they've been working on VFDs now, variable frequency drives, for 2 years. So the result is we are sending out students that are getting more time with the tools in their hand. They are showing comprehension of the topics sooner, and now we are able to implement circuits that are keeping up with what's actually happening in the electrical field. So we are, as a result, producing a better electrician just from the get-go. So if they're leaving with that foundation, if they're improving that much over previous students, that means as they get the experience over the years, these guys are going to become master electricians sooner in their careers. And that has a direct benefit on us, our country, our schools, everything else, because that means those circuits are going to be safer in the buildings that we're going to find ourselves in. That's what I'm sorry, I was looking for the data I had on the circuit types. On those, back to that motor controls course that I was talking about, I was able to add 3 new circuits last year. In fact, it was just this past summer semester that we did it. These were the most complex circuits that we had ever attempted in the classroom. They were actually combinations of other circuits we've done previously with a couple of additions on that. As you can see, we're going towards the end of the second paragraph under increased circuits and circuit types. The average test score for all 3 of these new circuits was 94.83%. Once again, a better foundation for technical skills is being laid, all thanks to the implementation of OERs. So it's not just that they're doing the work, the scores are showing that they understood why they were putting that circuit together the way they were. And actually, this next one, the improved critical skills, I hadn't even actually thought of it that way until I was talking with another educator one day, and we were comparing notes about what we do in our classroom. I told her what I was doing with the using SoftChalk and OERs and moving as much stuff to digital and online as possible, and she thought that was fantastic. She's like, you're increasing their ability to use technology, to become more familiar with technology, which kind of falls into this realm of critical skills, also known as soft skills. I'm always shocked when I speak with other CTE instructors, primarily in the college here, but I do talk to others across the state and a few others that I've met across the country. It's alarming how many of them don't think students should be familiar with computers or have some computer skills. They have actually kind of a negative view towards critical skills. I'm hoping that my experiences are not matching yours in this particular case. I hope I'm in a minority, that these are the ones I'm coming across. I just don't agree with that either. This is a modern day and age. We are all walking around with smartphones, tablets, laptops, things like that. And I do get it. If you're out there welding, you're not going to have a laptop on you. I understand that. It's going to be a torch in your hand while you're doing what you're going to do. But chances are good that that welder probably is going to have to submit his timesheet electronically. By spending some time in the classroom on the computer on a daily basis, because that's how they access their lessons, that's how they're accessing the videos that they need to watch, so forth and so on. They become familiar enough with the technology to where it's easier for them to pick up those other skills they may need just to be successful in life in general. Well, I see student success as beyond the classroom. All right, I don't aim for just making sure they graduate. I don't aim for just making sure they find a job. As they're in my care, what I want is students that are going to be successful beyond their time with me. And I think that is a critical part of that, is teaching them the other things about what they're going to do in everyday life in addition to everyday work on how to do that. That might be stretching it for a CTE program, but that is how I feel and that is how I operate in there. And kind of wrap up this page. This is, like I say, it's making a better quality electrician. And that's really the goal here. It's not just to make an electrician. It is to make an electrician that is doing the job correctly, that is doing the job safely, and therefore any of us who have to come across what that electrician has worked on is also in a safe environment. And once again, I keep touting it, it's because of the OERs and the benefits that have come with that. We're able to free up time for the things that really matter in there instead of getting bogged down with just too much language. Are there any questions for this page?
Yes, Lane, we have quite a few questions that have come in.
Okay.
Someone wanted to know what type of development time was necessary to develop your OERs.
I can't really answer that because I'm still developing them. We're not complete yet because of the amount of information I have to put out to them. But I was able to get the first round of lessons, which included videos, the interactive tools in SoftChalk, so forth and so on. I was able to get 75% of one semester done in about 8 weeks.
Great. Someone else asked, did you get paid for creating your lessons?
Unfortunately, no. I wish I had. Part of the reason for that is we do not have anything set up for instructional designers here at SLCC. And on top of that, I have a 12-month teaching contract. So I'm pretty much viewed as anytime I'm working, I'm getting paid.
Yep, there you go. Someone wanted to know, do you have any student grade data showing a comparison of the use of textbooks versus OERs?
You know, I do not have it on me. I'm actually, I had to borrow a classroom to do this, so I don't have any of my information. I can show how the grades have changed. I do have the data because thanks to, we use Canvas for our learning management system, and I've got 5 years worth of test grades saved up because of that. So you can see the improvement as it goes. Natalie, you're gonna give them my contact information we discussed?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, if anybody wants to email me and wants anything in particular, feel free to shoot me an email and I will get the data to you.
Great. And then whenever you feel that it's a good time, a few people are asking if you could show some of your lessons that you're using in your classroom as opposed to the textbooks. So if you have any links that you want to share with me in the chat, I can bring those up whenever you feel that it's a good time.
Okay, yeah, we can definitely do that. I wonder if I can multitask.
And so another question that just came in is, what has been the response from textbook writers, designers, or publishers, especially the ones that work with the different platforms, if you've had any kind of interaction with them?
No, I don't have any interaction with them. I'm going to be flat out honest with you. Once I switched over to OERs, I stopped replying to the emails. In there, I actually don't have any contact with them. When I was faculty senate president, we had an association here in the state of Louisiana with other faculty senate presidents. The system president himself for LCTCS, he had a conversation. He did not tell us who the conversation was with, and I don't want to know who it was with, but he was speaking with somebody from a textbook company, and their opinion of how they sell textbooks to students almost exactly matched the opinion of a used car salesman. And at that point, I was glad I had switched over to OERs, and I just kind of walked away from textbook companies at that point. So I don't have any reactions to them whatsoever.
And then one final question that came in before, and then we'll continue, is someone wants to know, are your OERs available to other educators, and whether that be publicly in SoftChalk or in another public resource?
They are not right now, and that is only because I want to tweak them some more. I actually have every intention of making them available. I just want to make sure they're actually fit for public consumption.
Perfect. And then, sorry, one additional question came in. In general, where do you get your content from?
I am still leaning heavily, at least as far as the like an outline for each lesson. I still go back and forth between two publishers, American Technical Publishers and NCCR, but it's more of just tackling the subject out of it. The students are aware that that's what I'm looking at. The reason I still have to use NCCR primarily is because that is the industry-based credential that we provide to our institution. So I have to make sure they are adequately prepared for the examinations and hands-on examinations so that they can earn the credential.
And since you are still using some content from textbooks, how do you handle copyright laws?
I put the bibliography at the end of each lesson on there. I do not directly quote. I guess that's not true. I guess there are the occasional quotes in there, but I will do a proper APA citation for that. And like I say, any book I'm using, I put in a bibliography at the end. I've got a little bit of freedom as an electrical instructor because even if it's a textbook, everything electrical is based on that National Electrical Code. So even if it's an NCCR textbook versus an American Technical Publishers textbook or a Hill McGraw or any of these other publishers that may have something, it's their interpretation of the code. So when I write the lesson, I'm just interpreting the code. I'm just kind of going in the order that the textbook went so that I can align with the credentialing exam. So if there's anything I'm going to test on that's not part of the credential, it's all completely me. So I will take a topic out of the National Electrical Code, and it's literally just coming from me at that point. I write the test. If there's any homework assignments, I write the homework assignments for that, so forth and so on. That way I don't actually have to worry about a copyright law on that.
All right, great. That is all the questions that have come in so far. So
Okay,
do you want me to go ahead and go to the next page?
Excellent.
Great.
I really appreciate all the questions. The interaction is good. Okay, so this is on this page also. I did put my bibliography on there for this because I did quote from a book. There are two other books that I included on here for suggested reading. I am aware that not everybody teaches at community college. Both these books are kind of geared towards community colleges, but I found them very thought-provoking. So should you decide to write them, they may actually help you at least jog the brain a little bit for anything you might be looking at or trying to do. And what I really want to point out of the conclusion in here was this book I am referencing, Redesigning America's Community Colleges. What I liked was when they were talking about not taking college courses just simply because I had to take this, I had to have an elective, checking off boxes. I like the idea of students being enrolled in a course that's going to help them master skills and knowledge relevant to meeting their goals, whatever those goals are. And like I continued writing in that second paragraph there, I would even go one step further, but within the course itself, we should be guiding the students to try and master the content of the course. I think OERs really help establish that because, like I say, we're able to weed through pages of examples, pages of droning on. We can bring that pertinent information right there to the forefront, put it in the limelight, spend time focusing on that instead of trying to pull it out of the text. And then in like my particular case, as a CTE program, we can just get right to it. Okay, you guys seem to know what you're talking about. I'm satisfied. Let's go put a tool in your hand and let's see how this actually works. And let's start working on making sure you can install this thing in a masterful way before you even leave the classroom. Continuing down to the next paragraph, it really boils down to word of mouth. I mean, we have our marketing campaign down here for SLCC. I'm sure your institutions have some sort of marketing campaign as well. Nothing is going to be stronger than word of mouth. And by that, I'm encompassing everybody's word of mouth. Okay, it's not just a student graduating talking about their experience. It's a student graduating, getting the job, and the employer being so impressed with what they got in that hire that they're talking about what your institution is doing. They're talking about the quality of student coming out of there. It's I think we skipped it on here. I can't see it. I know. No, I'm sorry. It was back in the first paragraph. This was controversial. It's always tricky. We are in a customer service environment. I don't want to use the term customer service. I'm just using it so we understand what we're trying to get to. I do prefer the term student-centered. We're really here for the students, and a quality student, a quality graduate is going to have a good impact on our communities that we're serving, our nation, the world in itself, depending on what the program is. This doesn't have to be limited to just the local vision at all. But in customer service, every one of our stakeholders is word of mouth, and that's either going to be good or bad. There's no middle ground on that. So anything we can do to have more satisfied people with our institutions, whether it's a graduate or somebody hiring those graduates, it's worth the risk to me. In OERs, I'm just a firm believer in it, mostly because of my experiences, I won't lie, but I am a firm believer that OERs are the way to get to that level of excellence and mastery, and therefore generating really positive word of mouth in our communities. So I know we're kind of running low on time, and y'all wanted to see the lessons. So I want to make sure I have time to share a couple of those with y'all so we can see them. I just wanted to share my experiences through this whole thing. I know some people hem and haw. They aren't sure exactly what is involved in getting involved. That's right, sorry. What's involved in implementing OERs into their institutions and their programs. My opinion, it's worth the time, it's worth the effort, it's worth the risk. The real trick is just how do you get people on board with that, and that becomes a whole other topic and lesson right there. But I hope this has helped somebody in some kind of way on this. Are there any other final questions?
Yes, Lane, a few have come in. Did you use any OER repositories like Merlot to supplement your lessons?
Oh, good question, good question. No, I cannot find, that's kind of why I ended up having to write my own stuff. I cannot find anything adequate for electricians. There is stuff out there for electronics. There is stuff out there for engineering, whether it's mechanical or electrical or things like that. We really primarily deal with construction and maintenance in our electrical programs on the CTE side, and there's just not any adequate material out there. I couldn't find anything in OpenStax. I couldn't find anything in Merlot or any of the other services that were out there. I could find stuff that I could have modified, but it was still so engineering heavy or electronic heavy. I just would have ended up writing my own stuff anyway, trimming it down.
All right. And then someone asked, in terms of the online courses, have you had any input from Quality Matters?
Great question. That's where it gets interesting. I actually don't have any online courses, even though I treat myself like a hybrid. I'm not listed hybrid or online. But I am Quality Matters trained. So when I'm setting the things up, I am following the Quality Matters rubric.
Got it. And someone wanted to know, how much university support do you have for using SoftChalk, and how many of the faculty at your university use SoftChalk, and what about using OERs?
I am the only user of SoftChalk at our institution currently. I have been trying to get more people interested in it. OERs are a very hot topic, not only in our institution, but in the state of Louisiana, especially for our particular system, which is the Louisiana Community and Technical College System, LCTCS. I know our math department is OER heavy. We have a few other, like our first semester experience. I forget what we call that course right now. I know it uses OER. Our chancellor teaches a couple of classes every semester. She only uses OERs. But on the whole, I think we still have a long way to go to say that we're fully enmeshed in OERs. I know we have just recently started a standing committee whose goal is to help develop a repository of OERs. We have just signed an agreement with OpenStax, all that. So they're starting to get the momentum going so that we can implement more OERs at our institution.
Great. That is all the questions that have come in so far. So if you want to send me a couple of the links to the, or just one link, one or two, to the lessons that you wanted to share, I'll go ahead and pull those up.
All right. I'm having a little trouble getting out of the screen so I can go. Let me go find some that are worthy of y'all looking at.
And someone did share that one place to find OERs is through the University of Minnesota's open textbook library.
Okay, excellent, excellent.
That might be a good resource for you.
Natalie, how would you like me to get this link to you? You want me to email it to you, or?
If you have the chat open, you can send it to me in there.
Okay. I got one for you right here. There's one. Let's see if I can find one.
All right.
That one
So
right
I pulled
there.
up. Is everyone seeing the lesson? If you can raise your hand or type in the chat that you're seeing it. Perfect. Okay, great. All right. I'll go ahead and just go to the first page so you can kind of talk through what you want to talk through.
Okay, I was just getting one more link in case we have time to go into one more.
Okay.
Right there.
Got it. Thank you.
Okay, so this particular course right here is in our electrician fundamental. I'm sorry, this lesson is in our electrician fundamentals one course. At this point in the course, we are starting to be talking about the mathematical applications for electricity. In this case, you have to size the right heating element for the amount of water you might try that you're going to heat up inside of a tank. Can you scroll down just a little bit, Natalie? Thank you. So I was able to include a chart for a Whirlpool water tank that's showing, that has the information so that they can plug into that formula that you see on the top of the screen. Yeah, this is the calculation for finding the required power in there. So this particular water tank in the example requires 30.77 kilowatts of power. How they'll take that application is they're going to have to go size a wire to run to that water tank. That might be on the next page, I think. I'll walk you through this. When you only teach it once a year, it's hard to remember everything. Oh no, then it just switched over to heat and oil, so they're able to see the comparison on that. The power requirements are different because oil is thicker than water. Yeah, we can go to the next page. Okay, I'm sorry, that was actually a really short lesson. I was actually just preparing them for a short homework assignment. I think the other one, I should have picked a better one. Sorry about that one. It didn't even have good illustrations in it.
Here, this is a more lengthy one. Here we go.
Yeah, this one's going to have more what we're looking for here. Okay, so this is a third semester course, Electromagnetic Principles, and what we talk about in this course is what's the difference between a motor and a generator, how is a transformer actually working, what a relay is, what a solenoid is, and so this particular course is just on solenoids. Yeah, we can go to the next page. Okay, years ago we did purchase for my for me to use. We purchased a set of instructor resources from American Technical Publishers, which gave me access to their image library. So a lot of the images I use from that, but as you can see right there where it says left-hand rule, I gave credits to American Technical Publishers for that. I usually use Paint, Microsoft Paint, to make that happen. So I'll just copy the image over there, type in the copyright information, and then upload this up into SoftChalk. What else is on this page? Yeah, this is one of the things I like about SoftChalk. I throw these, I'll throw the review questions that have available in there. Some of my lessons, I use the hotspot activity. So like if they need to identify components and stuff like that, they're able to use it. I really like that feature. Actually, I use the text pop-ups in here. Yeah, now they're actually able to see the solenoids. And now this is an example of, I might actually, because I might be following American Technical Publishers outline for this particular chapter, but I am not quoting them directly, just like their section says configurations. I just write about the configurations because that's the topic that's on there. I'm not following their bullet lists or anything like that. It's all, at that point, it is my content. I just may use the same headers as them, is all. And sometimes if I don't like the way it's worded, I'll change the wording on it as well. Yeah, we went pretty deep into this particular lesson. But that's, I mean, this one doesn't have any, if you, my first ones I wrote, and I think we provided one of them in the first blog. I found a really good set of videos that walk the students through an actual final inspection for a solar PV photovoltaic system, solar panels in there. So that accomplished more than anything in the textbook would have, because that just would have been a list of what's checked. In this case, they actually got to see the guy going through the inspection, what he was looking for, explaining it, all that, and it's a reference they could go back to continuously from there. So, but this particular lesson won't have any videos in it because of the topic.
Great. All right, Lane, well, we are at time.
Yep.
So, and no additional questions have come in at this point. I will go ahead and show the last slide on my end. And if anyone has any questions while we're kind of wrapping up, please go ahead and type those in and we'll be happy to answer them. And as Lane mentioned, his email address is on your screen. So if you have any specific questions, then please feel free to reach out to him, or we also have a post-webinar survey that you all will be able to answer if you'd like, and you can answer there if you would like him to contact you to speak with you more about what he's doing. And thank you so much, Lane, for presenting this webinar for us this afternoon. Seems like everyone really enjoyed it, and I know I did, and thank you for additionally sharing your lessons with us as well. Oh, and if anyone on the line wants more information about SoftChalk, you can visit our website, softchalk.com, or you can email us at learnmore@softchalk.com. Again, Lane, thank you so much. It has been a pleasure. And people, I think you're doing a great job for your students, definitely.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that, and I also appreciate the opportunity.
Great. And thank you all for joining us today. And as I said, we will send a link to the recording out in an email early next week, and we will also provide a link to the presentation lesson that Lane created, so you will be able to have those resources as well. Thank you so much, and have a great day, everyone.